and welcome. You are here for the Man of the Month video. I love these interviews, and I know you do too. And today I have a wonderful guest, and that is the amazing Larry Michel. Welcome, Larry.
Hello, hello. Thank you. I'm just so looking forward to this. I've never been a Man of the Month or Man of the Year, so, or Man of the Century. So Man of the Month is a good start. I like it.
You are now. You are our Man of the Month.
Thank you.
So we're thrilled to have you. And Larry, I know a lot of the women listening will be familiar with you and your work, but I know we are going to have a deep conversation today to help the women understand more about what's going on in the minds and hearts of men so that they can have better communication and better relationships with men. That's our whole goal. So I do want to give a formal introduction, though, because just to make it nice and official, Larry Michel, also known as the Love Shepherd, is the founder of the Institute of Genetic Energetics, a master ERP and host of the Love Matters podcast. He's a breakthrough relationship coach, author, trainer, speaker, and producer. As the founder and the voice of the 4answers.com, he's brought to the world the only scientifically proven online compatibility system that unlocks the mysteries and reveals the true motivations behind our actions, from the devastating emotional upsets to our most joyous and blissful experiences. Yes, our goal is to go from the devastating emotional upsets to more joyous and blissful experiences. Larry dedicates his life to creating possibility for all of us to live in courageous intimacy, in deep connectivity, and in our full loving expression. So I love that vision, Larry, and I love your work. I love the genetic energetics model, and I'm really excited for you to share today. So I want to jump right in, and I'm going to ask you some questions that women often ask me, because we want to get the male perspective and male point of view on this. So first of all, one of the questions that women ask me is, why do men seemingly give mixed signals? Like it seems like mixed signals to a woman. Let's just start there.
Wow. Yeah, just open up a big trap door and jump in. Oh gosh.
So Larry, before you jump in, let's start first with the premise and the question, like, do you think this, we're making an assumption in this question, do you think that men give mixed signals, first of all? And then second of all, if they do, then why might that be?
Well, I think both men and women appear to give mixed signals, right? Mm-hmm. And it's that appearance of a mixed signal, and an appearance is precipitated by one thing that is really where most of the problem is, and that's an expectation, right? So there's an expectation of a signal that is wanted, both from a man or a woman, and the appearance that it didn't happen is then called a mixed signal, right? And the reality is, most of the time, and this happens when I talk with women all the time, and even when I talk to men, they'll go, well, she didn't do this, and I'll go, how do you know? Well, because I didn't hear back from him after I texted him. And I went, do you know if he got your text? Do you know if he was in town? Do you know if it was something that he even felt he could answer or not? And, and those questions, they'll go, well, no, and no, and no. And so what this means is that there's an expectation that's levied, right, based on the communication that's being sent out. And by communication, by the way, that's not just verbal, it could be physical as well. Although right now, and in this day and age, there's less physical. There's opportunities like you and I have, across Zoom, but in person, there's not as much of it by a long shot. And so the messaging that's going out is really restricted in its bandwidth, like massively restricted. And we could speak just to texting alone. And I can tell you that statistically, you have a 96.5% chance of being misunderstood anytime you text someone.
Oh boy, that's the gospel truth.
Okay, so I mean, think about that. You would not go out on the freeway in your car if you thought there was a 96.5% chance you could get hit by another car,
No,
right? You wouldn't.
not.
You'd stay home. You wouldn't even walk out the door. You wouldn't even go to a grocery store. You wouldn't pet your dog, right? You wouldn't do anything. But we're texting people all the time, and we're expecting them to understand our communication, like understand it fully. And the reality is, take yourself out of texting and just into a situation in the pre-abnormal world we're in right now, when you got to be face to face with someone sitting across a table or even holding hands. And were there chances you had miscommunications then?
Yes.
Yeah, for sure there were, right? Or misunderstandings at least. So now we're texting, and we have this desire for someone to respond to us quickly or promptly, or with an indication that they want to spend more time with us. And there's a good chance that the communication that went their way in the first place didn't even make that request. There's an assumption that if the man wants to spend time with me, he should be chasing me, right? Mm-hmm. Well, a lot of people aren't chasing anything right now, Michelle. They're really taking life as it's coming to us, mostly because the life that's being thrown at us is very challenging. It's very confusing. There's a lot of unknowns in general. We don't know if what we hear on the radio or read on the television is accurate. We don't. The only thing we know for sure is who we are as we stand in front of a mirror and ask ourselves how we feel. But a lot of the other communications that are going on and things that are happening are so much in the unknown. This is a real challenge and a real great opportunity to get into self-discovery, right? To find our own balance and our ground. I kind of just went off a little bit, but, to come back to your question, which is kind of like, why are men inconsistent? Why are they showing interest one moment and then not the next? And I'm saying that that's not necessarily inconsistency. That's a situation where you're really discovering who this man is, how they operate, how they live, what they need to feel connected or desired or feel like they're providing something of value. If you go to Alison Armstrong, she's going to tell you if a man doesn't feel like he's providing something, he's going to just disappear on you, or worse, he may get cruel, right? Because he's going to feel like he's just not appreciated in any way, shape, or form. And, and conversely, if I'm speaking to men, if a woman doesn't seem heard or doesn't feel seen or felt, she may very well disappear as well. It's like, why do I want to do this? I don't think the guy even sees me. I don't think he appreciates me. And I'm not talking about seeing you physically. I'm talking about seeing the real you, right? It's there. Mm-hmm. And so we have needs as human beings to connect. And, I'm one of those people that, I know this is kind of the man of the month thing, but I'm kind of, what's the word? I believe that men and women have a masculine and a feminine.
Yeah, for
sure. I think we get ourselves into horrendous, ugly, disempowering, depreciating traps when we call men something or women something, right? And we like typecast. Well, all men do that. All women do that. Or there's another man behavior, right?
Right.
That's dangerous. That's dangerous. And if you're doing that, you're in judgment. In fact, you're probably carrying some kind of resentment or shame or blame or guilt, and you're already judging someone. And I can tell you one thing, when any of those exist, by the way, if you've got any kind of judgment that you're putting out there, then love is nowhere in the equation. There's no place for it. It doesn't exist. Does not exist. Your own self-love is depleted when you have resentment, shame, guilt, judgment, all those things that are active. So you got to get rid of that shit. Excuse the expression, but it is. You just have to get rid of it if you want to show up and be the loving person. So, if you're noticing that a man is being kind of inconsistent, the first thing to do is ask yourself, what may have I done? Or how may I have shown up or not shown up that left a message for this man that he's not sure who I am or how to respond to me, right? And, or did you ask for something with clarity? Did you make a request? And by all means, we have the right to make requests. You know, we know what we want, what we desire. We know who we are, and we want someone that can interact with us in that way. And so sometimes that has to be a request. You know what? I really enjoyed this opportunity, and I need to make a request. Something that's really important to me is that if I do send a communication, even if you don't have time to fully get back to me, will you just acknowledge it? Say, got your message. I will get back to you soon, right? And soon, by the way, is not even a good answer. I'll get back to you by tomorrow, you know, and then, by the way, if that happens and the guy doesn't get back to you by the next day and doesn't say anything else, then you don't deserve him. Or excuse me, he doesn't deserve you. Let me be clear about that. You know, if you've made a request, either way, someone's made a request to you or you've made a request to someone else and they've acknowledged it and said, thank you for that. I can do that. And they really mean I can do that. And then they don't. Well, they're just telling you that they're not the quality. They don't deserve you, right? They didn't make the cut, right? And move on. Pinch yourself a little bit. Go, is this chemistry? Do I want this guy because he's a hunk? Do I want him because he's got a great resume? Do I want him because he made me laugh the first time we talked? Is that it? So is it, am I just hyped up in chemistry? And if that's the case, just take a break, breathe into it, get back to who you are, and then answer the question, does he deserve me? and if he doesn't, just move on. And I say the same thing to men about women as well, by the way. So.
Yeah, so you're hitting on a couple of really, really important things that I think are key to having a good relationship. The first thing is that we do all come to interactions with whoever we're dating or exploring partnership with a certain number of expectations. We may not even be fully aware of them, but they are there. But we can't expect that this other person is going to know about them or understand them. We can't make those assumptions. And we can't really make assumptions that we understand where another person is coming from, and at least until we seek for deeper understanding by having those questions, asking those questions, making those requests, seeing if this is someone that we can work with.
Yeah, we need.
If this is someone that can show up for us, right?
Right.
And so these things that you're talking about, you're hitting on some of the key things that people run into that can cause all kinds of snags and misunderstandings and unhappiness and breakdowns in relationships. The expectations that we may or may not even be aware that we have until we bump up against them. The assumptions and being willing to ask questions, make clear requests, and put ourselves in that situation where we're showing up in a way where we allow ourselves to see how this other person reacts, responds, and who they are. We learn more about them, not who we think they are or what they think they should be doing, or that we already know what their motivations are before we seek for that kind of understanding.
Yeah, we do. And we make crazy projections too on the people. And, here's an example. I'll give you an example. So this one gal I was working with and talking to, she met a new man and they had been communicating for a couple of weeks. First they started on, that they were texting, and I went, I hope you got off of that fast. And they did, and they're talking on the phone. And then a couple days went by that she didn't hear from him. And she was just getting to know him, but she didn't know him really, really well yet. And I said, so, she says, he's just not getting back to me. It's so rude. I hate this. Why can't someone just tell me what's going on? And I went, well, so do you know, what he's doing. Is he traveling? She says, no, he's not traveling. He's not working right now. And I just saying, but is there some other possibility? She says, what other possibility can it be other than he's just not being very respectful, right? So the reality was he got a new puppy, right? He always wanted a puppy. They hadn't talked about animals. That's the one thing they hadn't covered. And he got a puppy, and this puppy had turned into like nightmare puppy. It was like chewing up things, destroying things, peeing everywhere, and he was renting his place, and it was like all hell broke loose in Puppyville, right? And he didn't have the bandwidth to talk to anybody, and he's trying to figure out what to do with this dog that he loves, and he's trying to figure out what to do with it. And so, like, everything else came to a stop. So she finds that out, and she's going, oh, God, it's so good to know that. Thank you. I'm just like, I was so worried. And she doesn't want to really say I was worried, because women don't want to sometimes express how much they really wanted to connect with the guy, which I think is BS, by the way. Men and women, if you're interested in someone and you're really enjoying it, just say so. Be courageous, for Christ's sake. If you can't be courageous, then you're not even ready for a relationship, right? You want to be intimate and vulnerable, then speak your truth and disregard all the stuff you've heard about, you shouldn't say this to a guy until 6 weeks and 8 hours later. That's all BS, right? It might be true for one guy, but it's not for the next, and that's why it's BS. So anyhow, here's the challenge, though. After she found out, it was like, okay, everything was fine. But the next time there was a little gap in communication, how she felt about that scenario when it was happening before is still there. She's still kind of angry about it, although she understands it. So she's brought this emotion forward, and she says, he did this to me once before. And I went, whoa, time out to that. What did he do to you once before? Well, he didn't call me for 2 days. Do you remember you found out why? Yeah, but, and there's this, like, they bring the emotion forward, like all of a sudden not getting called makes them a victim. They go into victim mode and the guy's wrong, right? And by the way, when the guy's wrong, a guy is not interested in defending himself, right? He's interested in speaking his truth. Like a relationship, I don't want a relationship with a woman, no more than a woman should want a relationship with me where we're defending ourselves, right? Want to be able to speak our truth and be appreciated for who and what we are. The reason, Michelle, why genetic energetics is such a potent tool for me and all of my clients is that it busts a whole ton of stories that people have that are just not true. And the stories have created beliefs, or beliefs have created stories. It doesn't matter which came first, that are just inaccurate. And because of those, they're not present, and they're holding on to the things I talked about earlier with some kind of resentment or blame or shame or guilt. So what did this gal had? She resented the fact that he didn't call her for 2 days, even though he had a good reason. Wasn't good enough. Yeah. Right? What is that? What is that? That's just self-righteousness. That's no good either. Right? Yeah. So, the opportunity is to stop and go, why do I need this so badly? Why do I need to hear from him so badly? It's only been 2 days. Take some time to go inside. Ask yourself, what's up for me? What is it that I really need? Don't hit me with an expectation like you should call me. Back and say, when you didn't call, I got so used to our conversations, I found myself really missing you. Right? Now, at that point, the man feels very important, right? Feels desired. And that's going to hit home, as opposed to, next time will you call me? Just let me know. Yeah. Those are make wrong.
Or nice to hear from you. I thought you dropped off the planet.
Oh my God. You might as well. That statement, that says you're done. Yeah, that really is, okay, I want to end the relationship. And which brings us up to a whole nother topic. Sometimes a man will, quote unquote, ghost you, right? Or not talk to you or communicate with you, and you'll get real upset about it without looking into it. And the real reason that you're upset is that you actually don't want the relationship anyhow, right? You really don't, but you don't like the fact that he might have ended it.
Right.
Right.
That's right.
Most of
That's
the time,
right.
like,
I've had clients say that to me before. That's some version of that.
50% of the time, I'll ask women, I said, so, did you think he was relationship material? Were you interested in him? And they'll go, well, no, I was just going to give him another chance. And I went, oh my God. So let me just point something out. It's a little thing that you might not notice. If in your head you really aren't interested in him, I guarantee you that you said something or didn't say something that the man needed to hear so he knew how to interact with you. You sabotaged it. You ended it. It was your decision, right? So you think he's making the decision not to see you anymore? No. No. It was your decision. You already did it, right? And both men and women don't want to be responsible for saying, I don't want to do this anymore most of the time. At least, unless you're really, really mature and you've got a really strong sense of who you are. And so it's kind of like oftentimes both men and women will set up the other person to say, I'm not interested, or to not contact them, or to ghost them, or to put them in the friend zone, right? Oh my God.
And then feel mad and upset when they did it.
Yeah. And here's the worst part is that now they're mad and upset. So what do they have? They have a new judgment in place about men in these circumstances or women in these circumstances. And both men and women take that into their next relationship, looking for where that might happen again because they're focused on not wanting it. Now, Michelle, you and I have talked about this before. If there's something you don't want, never ask for it like that.
Right.
If you've had a cheater and you don't want someone that cheats on you and you say, I just don't want a cheater, 100% guarantee you will get another one.
Right.
Because that's all the universe hears is cheater, 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 cheater. You want something, ask for a man who's vulnerable and authentic and willing to be seen and just radically honest. Ask for that. And be ready for radical honesty, by the way. Most people aren't.
Yeah, that's right. It can be a rude shock when we're not used to it.
It's like if you put 100 people in a room and ask them, how many of you are radically honest? And, everybody will most people will raise their hand a little bit, way up, and you go, and how many of you withhold information from time to time? Right? Why? Well, because I didn't want someone to be hurt. Well, then, you know what? Radical honesty is speaking to those things that sometimes scare the absolute bejesus out of you.
Right.
Because that's the deeper connection. I call it courageous intimacy. Ultimately, in a relationship, I want a partner I can be courageously intimate with. And that means super vulnerable, super willing to be seen, and also willing to have my beliefs like knocked out from underneath me because something better is there. Right?
Yeah.
And if I'm not willing to be there, then I'm not fully in the relationship. I'm not fully committed. I'm not fully in it. I'm not mature enough for it. And in which case, when men come and go, just go, it was just another dance partner. We danced for a while and then we didn't. Then I went to another concert and danced with someone else and we didn't. I'm having fun. Have fun. Right? But if you want a serious relationship, have the most fun and the most joy you could possibly have in your life and be courageously intimate. Get a chance to discover what that feels like. That's where real passion is. That's where real love shows up. The rest of it's all manufactured crap.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Most people think they have a definition for love.
Yeah.
There isn't one. As soon as you define it, it's not.
Yeah. Well, I think that what we're talking about is so important. And I recently did a video where I was talking about another thing that's kind of related to this, which is oftentimes we see just what we want to see. Like we have like the blinders on. So for example, I speak with women all the time who will tell me about a past relationship that didn't work out, for example. And it's in many cases ended in a very painful way. And I'll always ask the question, I'm like, okay, I get it. I know hindsight is 20/20. But looking back on it, were there signs, were there signals, were there indications? Did you have feelings that maybe you might have ended up in this place ultimately in the end if you'd have been paying attention to them? And in almost every case, they say yes. I had one woman, I may have told you this before, who said, yeah, there were more red flags than in the Chinese Communist parade, which is a pretty dramatic way of saying it. And sometimes they're more subtle than that. But what I know from my own decades of dating is that if I'm really attached to someone or attached to a certain outcome or a relationship going a certain way, I might unwittingly participate in my own self-deception and not see all this peripheral stuff going on out here.
Yeah.
And so then I can make it his fault when in reality I was a willing participant in my own deception.
Yeah.
And this all ties back in with some of the things we've been talking about, our preconceived notions of how things are supposed to go, or our expectations, or our kind of agenda, or our stories, or whatever the case may be. All these things are all tied together. And we can blame someone else, but if there are patterns of these kinds of things happening in our lives, what you're recommending is we go inside and we also go do a deeper exploration about what's really going on here. Because what I find sometimes when women say, well, everything was going great and then all of a sudden crickets, or he disappeared, or whatever, he ghosted me. In some cases, it'll be like on a Thursday that they last heard from them, and then this woman is talking to me on a Monday and like, he's disappeared, and I'm like, what? It's been like over the weekend, right? And he's disappeared. And she's like, no, but he was in touch all the time, several times a day, blah, blah, blah. And then nothing for like 2 or 3 days. And I'm like, there's a really good chance that he doesn't even know he's disappeared. He's just maybe had a busy weekend. It comes back to what you're saying, like the puppy story. And so it's like, but there's an assumption there, and probably triggered from past experience or past stories or whatever else is going on, where she's projecting, oh my gosh, here's another one, he's disappeared, when it's been Thursday and now it's Monday, right? Yeah. I mean, I've had those kind of conversations and I'm like, I think you give this a little bit more time before you come up with an idea that he's disappeared. And almost inevitably, the man's back within the next few days, he's back in contact.
Right. And here's the challenge. He comes back and the first thing is, what happened to you? And there's there's a challenge with that. Of course, you want to know. It's like, I'd love to know what happened. I missed you. We were talking so often, right? If you say it in that voice, or even the best way to enter into wanting to know what's going on is to start the beginning of any question with, I'm curious, right? I'm curious. What happened? I was so enjoying our communication every day. And then you were gone for 3 days. Is everything okay? I'm curious, right? Mm-hmm. And it just be really curious, as opposed to angry or upset or disappointed, right? Or blaming. Right? The key here is, in this one, I just really wish I could flip a switch sometimes for people, is that ask yourself, anytime you're upset with someone, are you blaming them? Are you shaming them? Do you resent them? Is there some guilt or judgment? Okay. And then ask yourself, do I love myself? Well, if you go right back to the shame, blame, guilt, resentment stuff, the answer is no. You are nowhere near your love, right? And love is a life force that is in us all the time. But what gets in the way of it, what makes it seem like it's disappearing, is our stories, is those accusations. Mm-hmm. And so if you want to connect with someone, connect with them from your heart. Don't come at it with blame, shame, guilt, resentment. Come at it out of pure, genuine, loving curiosity, right? And the person's either going to be able to receive it or not. And if they can't, again, that's a sign. That's that red flag, that looks like communist China, right? that just says, he's the wrong guy for me. I took Larry's advice. I dropped into my heart, right? And I really did. I really, really did. I was so curious. I wasn't looking for anything else other than knowing the person better. And they were unable to share or talk to me or tell me. Mm-hmm. Well, they now are not able to be as intimate as you are. Mm-hmm. So there's a thing about intimacy, right? We all kind of wanted that statement, into me I see, but intimacy between two people has to do with vulnerability.
Yeah.
And, the psychologists have come up with levels of intimacy. You can Google search it. You'll find people describe them. And the first level is like just shaking hands, right? There's not even a hello. Actually, the first level might be hello without shaking hands. And then it goes up more and more and more until at the top level of intimacy, it's a willingness to be fully seen, to be totally vulnerable. So I'm not suggesting that you have to be up at the top. I think that takes some maturity, and it takes some practice, and it takes deep inner love. But here's the reality. When two people get together, intimacy is only the equivalent of the lowest common denominator, which means that if I'm willing to be fully seen and honest and vulnerable, and the person that I'm communicating with is not there yet, like they're still fearful, they're still like protecting themselves from some things, that's the level of intimacy you get to. They're not going to get to your level. You're at that level. So if you want to come down to that level and help them up, great. But if you're expecting them to be up there, it's not going to happen. Intimacy is always that lowest common denominator. And this is something to be aware of, because we're not always in the same place at all times. Look, you could be the most intimate person in the world and you just got fired from your job. And now it's like, only thing in your mind is, how am I going to pay the bills? Where am I going to go? I hated that job anyhow. What's my occupation supposed to be? Am I doing what I really love? You're inside your head with all these other things, and there's so many questions you need to answer. They're all important, no question about them. But it could change the way you interact with someone at that moment in time.
Absolutely.
Which takes us back to the importance of curiosity, right? Yeah. Be lovingly curious about who and what and where the person is at that point in time. And don't throw expectations on them, because it doesn't serve you at all. An expectation, a strong expectation, only sets you up to be disappointed. Right?
Yeah, and if we think of our communications as like energetic exchanges, because they are exchanges of energy when we're communicating with someone. Mm-hmm. Coming back to this earlier scenario we were talking about, where a guy disappears and then he comes back. If there's an underlying energy, even if we think we're saying it in a really nice way, if there's that underlying energy of anger or blame or shame or whatever we're projecting, it's going to come through. And this comes back to a couple of things we've talked about, whether it's through texting, whether it's through a phone call. We might think we're saying something in the sweetest, softest, nicest way. Because I hear this all the time. I said it in the nicest way.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yes, but what was underneath all that? Like, what were the emotions you were feeling? What were the thoughts you were thinking? There was energy coming into that interaction that was not in congruence with the sweet, soft sounding words or voice.
Yeah. And there's some questions that get asked that just, if you really step back and think about it, make you giggle. Like, my beloved will ask me a question sometimes. I wish I could remember a specific one. I should try and log these. But my answer is, I actually don't think there's a good answer for that. It's like, as I think about your question, I actually am just going to, I know you don't like me to return a question with a question, but is there a good answer for that one? And she'll go, no, there isn't. I went, okay. And then we're done, right? And then we kind of laugh about it.
No, it's like a no-win question? Like, no matter how you answer it, there's not going to be a good answer?
Yeah. I don't think there's an answer to that question that one you want to hear, or even, it sounded more like a statement or something like that. But sometimes there's even, the question is like a woman asking a guy, wow, do you love my hair? It's like that. There's only one answer to that. It's like, of course I love your hair.
Yeah,
Which is a great answer because I didn't say I love the way it looks. I just said I love it, right? So,
do I look fat? There's only one right answer.
Yeah. Compared to what? A sumo wrestler? Absolutely not. Which is not a good answer, by the way. No. So there's, let's think about how we set each other up sometimes and giggle about it, right? Like you catch yourself asking a question and go, don't answer that. I can't believe I even asked it, right?
Exactly.
So, there's a statement I love that I heard years ago, which is angels have wings because they take themselves lightly.
Yeah.
And all it takes for any of us to be an angel in our life is to take ourselves lightly. It doesn't mean that something's not important. It could be the most important thing in our entire lives, but it's how we take that importance and embody it that becomes really the thing that is at issue. And again, it brings us back to tapping into the one thing that is most critically important and exists all the time, which is a life force, and that's love.
Yeah. Yeah. If we brought that energy of love into all of our interactions, everything would be transformed.
Yeah, everywhere. It doesn't matter whether it's with our beloved or it's our children, it's our neighbor, it's the checkout lady, it's business. It doesn't matter. When we come from that place, the world shows up very differently for us. And I'm not at all trying to say to people, you shouldn't be angry because some circumstances are very, very challenging. I think we're all right now dealing with different levels of emotion, from anger and for some hate. And, there's just emotions that are coming in right now. And we owe it to ourselves to ask, why am I so angry? And by the way, that question takes you out of the vice of anger, right? And into a different place as soon as you get into that curiosity, that questioning mode. Why am I angry? Damn, I'm angry because I can't get a good answer here. I'm angry because I just don't know the information that I need to have. And then, there's another why. So why is not having that so challenging? When you get down to the core of it, eventually you get to something that looks like what you value the most in life is connection or honesty or free expression or choice. And those things they appear to be being manipulated around you. And so it's making you uneasy. You're not in the place you want to be. And you're realizing what it is why you're feeling so upset. And that why that's the piece that detangles all of the punishment that we levy on others or ourselves when there's anger or resentment or blame or judgment.
Yeah, I think that's a really good thing to pay attention to when we're triggered by something that someone does or doesn't do, is like go within and ask, what is it about that, or what about that is causing me to have such a strong emotion or feeling or reaction or, whatever. And we can oftentimes find that it's really not about what's happening out there or this other person. It's all our inner stuff.
Yeah, it's some belief system. This is a really great tool. And I just invite people to use this all the time. If you're upset about something, whatever it is, you're upset about something and you can't seem to get a grip on it, ask yourself, what do I have to believe to hold on to this emotion right now? That's the question. What do I have to believe to hold on to this emotion right now? And what you're going to discover is that belief is something, by the way, there's a good chance it's not even your belief, right? But you're holding on to a belief that men should do this, women should do this, government should do this person should do that. It's some belief that probably came to you from someplace external to you and you've adopted it, right? We have all kinds of beliefs that we hold on to that our parents gave us with good intention. Most of them gave us beliefs, hoping that that would be the right thing to teach us. So some of those beliefs now, when you ask them, you go, well, what do I have to believe? And, and the answer is you realize, oh my God, my parents have always told me this. Once you figure out what the belief is, go, is that true? Right? Is this belief true, or is it something someone else gave me? Right? Am I all upset because there's a conspiracy theory that was put out there and I believe it's true? Right? Whether it's true or not, I believe it's true. So the question is it really true? Is it my belief? If it's not yours and it's not true, give it back. Let it go. And you can give back beliefs, by the way, that people gave you that they're not even alive anymore. They could be, God bless them, our parents could have passed. And we realize, I had this happen a year ago. No, it was sooner, more recent than that. Something came up and I went, oh my God, my dad used to say that all the time. And I went, all right, Dad, thank you very much. He's been gone a long time now. I went, thank you very much. I know your intention was fine, but you keep it. It's yours. I'm giving it back to you wherever you are. I don't want it anymore. And I create a new set of beliefs that are empowering and supportive, that are discerning and loving, right? But again, if you're upset, what do I have to believe to hold on to this emotion? Is that my belief? Is it true? And if it's not yours and it's not true, give it back. Just say, I don't want it anymore. Yeah. That's simple.
Yeah. Yeah, because a lot of these things are kind of running the show, kind of underneath the surface, and a lot of them are not serving us well.
Yeah, they're running the show on the surface, Michelle.
Yeah.
A lot of these are running the show on the surface.
Yeah. I just mean sometimes we're not even aware.
Yeah, that's for sure.
But you're right. They're running the show on the surface, even if we're not aware that they're underneath.
Yeah. I mean, we get used to doing things a certain way because we find comfort in it. We like to live a certain way. I mean, if I'm looking for a partner, I want someone that appreciates things in life the same way I do, that does some of the same activities that I do because I really enjoy those activities. I love watching movies. If I have a partner that doesn't like watching movies, I have not found a very good match, right? Because I'm not ready to really change that. I enjoy it. I know how they get me back into balance, or how they entertain me, or whatever it is. I'm not talking about watching the news or television stations. I'm watching like a good whatever kind of movie, even a good documentary, right? But if my partner is not into that, then I haven't found someone that's a good match for how I like to live and what joys I have in my life. And I think lots of times we get into relationships, they look good. They sounded good. They're elevated because of chemistry. And chemistry, what we call attractions in genetic energetics, those are brain chemicals. These are neurotransmitters that make us crazy, right? So we have to be aware what they are. They feel good, but they get in the way of us making good decisions. And we can tell you whether you follow them properly or not. We're going to give you a gift that will give you that information. But sometimes it's that, where it's chemistry, it looks good, it feels good, I'm needy, I want someone, I'm lonely, I need someone to hug, I haven't had sex for months, or years. And there can be all kinds of reasons. Just be aware of what it is and appreciate it, and don't set expectations for things that you don't even really want.
Yeah. So you just started to mention the gift, but let's go there now. Let's talk about the genetic energetics gift and tell everyone a little bit about it. And for everybody watching or listening, the link will be underneath this video and also pinned to the top of the comments. But Larry, tell us all about it.
Okay, tell us. You said a little bit. Now you're saying all about it. So I only have a few seconds here, and I'm just going to precede that by saying that genetic energetics is something that we teach it. It's hours and hours of teaching. And what you're going to get in the space of just moments is going to be hugely profound and insightful. What is it? It's identifying the energetic frequencies that we vibrate at. And the reality is that some of those frequencies are the same as someone else's, and some of them are different. When they're different and discordant, there are different things that happen. There are circumstances that come up that are explainable, right? And when they're the same, when they're harmonic, it's like this beautiful flow. And there are circumstances that come up that are also explainable. Like you meet someone and you flow with them so tightly that you feel like you've known them forever. Well, guess what? There's nowhere to hide with that kind of person. And if you're still growing up, that might be a challenge, right? But the key here is that we're going to identify for you what we call 4 lifestyle traits: how you communicate, how you process information and live your life, how you relate to money, how you sexually engage. And this is so critically important for the success of any relationship. We're going to identify chemistry, whether it's true or false, which means can you follow it or shouldn't you follow it, and how to just relate to it in general. And then there's these things called modifiers, which you may have one of 6 of them. And they have upsides, and many of them have downsides. A couple of them are only just up, but it's worthwhile knowing them, because when you know them, you're finding out what you are. This is like your blood type. And this is the piece that's really important. Do I have like a minute to use an analogy? So it might take 2. Here's the analogy. Come with me for a second. Our best friend is having an operation, right? It's a minor operation. Just it's minor. It's going to take about an hour and a half. And she's really very studious, and she's studied to make sure that she's handled all the holistic things and that she's picked the right hospital and the right surgeon, really did her homework. And she's now asked a group of friends, like 5 or 6 of her closest friends, to come wait in the waiting room while she's having surgery. And it's just because she wants to be greeted when she's after, and she's going to feel really good because the energy is going to feel great, all of us supporting her. And so we go there and we go in the waiting room, and there's like 6 of us haven't seen each other for a long time because of COVID. Right? So we're like elevated and talking and having fun. An hour goes by. We're just like, it's having a great time. Hour and a half goes by. And a couple of us start to get a little quiet because this was only supposed to take about an hour. And we're wondering, I wonder how it's going. 2 hours goes by, and now we're all getting a little quiet, and we're getting a little concerned because, again, this was supposed to be a short surgery. 3 hours go by. Now we're dead quiet, and we're very concerned. And then we look down the hallway, and we see the surgeon walking towards us. And the look on his face says way, way too much. He comes up to us, and he says, "We lost her. We lost her." And we're in shock. We're going, how is that possible? How is that possible? He said, well, she told us her blood type, and we had to give her a transfusion, and it was the wrong blood type, and we couldn't bring her back. I'm so sorry. Now, shake it off. Would this happen in real life? Highly, highly unlikely. That'd be a super irresponsible thing for any hospital or surgeon to do, to rely on someone else's information. They would check the blood type, make sure it's right before they gave a transfusion. So this is unlikely this would happen. In our lives, we're doing relationship surgery every day, and most of us don't know the blood type. Genetic energetics is that blood type. This is your genetic, energetic frequencies that are genetically coded. They're in you. They're like your blood type. They never change. They're worthwhile to know, so that you, not to change someone, not to make someone wrong, but so that you can honor and appreciate and acknowledge both similarities and differences, so that you can get out of your stories, so that you can be in a place of love, so that you can be present, so that you can ask great questions, because you're not all tied up in all kinds of crap. Right? Mm-hmm. That's what this tool's for, and that's our gift.
That's great. That's great, and I loved that. I loved that analogy, that description. So tell people what happens when they click on the link. Then what happens?
Okay, thanks for that. So it's going to ask you for 2 pieces of information. It's really tough. These are really hard. The first one is your birth date, not where you were born, not the time you were born. This isn't astrology. It is not human design or any other of the esoteric sciences. This is our own science. And it's asking you for your birth date, and then it's going to ask you for the birth date of your opposite gender biological parent. So for me, it's my biological mom. For Michelle, it was her biological father. Now, if you don't know that, if you don't have that date, it's okay. Do the report anyhow. And the one thing I ask, make sure before you hit the submit button that the dates that are populated are your birth date. It's really easy with online devices and small devices to put in a date. And we've had this happen, Michelle. Someone will put in a date, and I'll look at it, and they said they were born in 2020. That's not likely, right? So make sure that the right date is populated and that you've got the right email address, and then hit submit. And then know that it's going to get sent to your email box. Some email systems are going to take it right into spam or junk mail, so make sure you check there. But you'll get your report faster than you can say, whoopee. It comes very quickly. So again, just your birth date. If you have your biological opposite gender parent's birth date, put that in there. If you don't have it, don't worry about it. That's just the chemistry piece that's not going to be included there. But everything else about you, you'll get. And I promise you, you'll love it.
Yeah, it's great. It's really great. I know I've done it before, Larry, and I think it's really, really fascinating and really, really powerful. And so this is a really great and valuable gift. And so be sure, everyone, to click below on the link and get Larry's gift. And Larry, we want to also thank you for sharing so generously and for being our Man of the Month.
Thank you. It is quite an honor. Thank you, Michelle. I really appreciate it. I always love interviewing with you and connecting with you. You ask beautiful questions, and I know you care so much about your audience. And so thank you. Thank you for the honor.
Thank you so much. And thanks so much for partnering with me again. It's always a pleasure and a privilege. So, and to all of you out there, we're so grateful for your attention and for tuning in. And we will see you again in a month from now for another Man of the Month. Bye for now.